am going to my 10-year school reunion today, and I almost didn't go.
Why? Why weren't you going to go? Or why were you thinking about not going?
To be honest, there was a food and wine festival at my hometown, and I kind of just wanted to go and drink wine and eat cheese. No, I think in my era, I already know everything about a lot of people that they would be willing to express at a school reunion. Like, I think once upon a time, school reunions were kind of like the Facebook feed or the Instagram feed of catching up with people.
That's so true. School reunions are the old person's Facebook.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have had any real way of knowing what's happened in that decade or two before the school reunion. It's all kind of on show. A mini capsule of Facebook, a one evening kind of Facebook display.
Yeah. And I totally think it's also because people want to know what people look like, but we see people's photos all the time. So we know what you look like. Don't need to come to an event to see that. But Amelia, I'm just wondering, tell us about your school. Like, what was your school like, and like how big was it? Where was it?
So I went to a private school in Sydney. It had literally every single amenity that you could possibly want. It's like, coming from the country, it was a very big change from like my local school, because like the Ducks was like 72, and then the average at the school that I was at was 93, I think.
Is it an all-girls school?
It was an all-girls school, yeah. So it was like it was a really good experience in the sense that I hated high school, and I literally just wanted to get the marks to then go off and do dentistry. But
why did you hate high school?
Just wasn't for me. Like, I'm not academic, but it's just I didn't like it. I didn't like the group scenario. Like, I'm not really a group person. I'm more like, I like to hang out with individuals. I have good friends from school, don't get me wrong, but I just always sort of felt invisible. Like, no one ever thought about me or wanted to include me.
Was that because you came to that school though later? Like, you weren't there the whole time?
No, not necessarily. I think sometimes it was my own self-imposing. Like, I imposed that on myself as well. Like, I maybe isolated myself away from people for fear of being hurt. Yeah, it was an amazing school because it showed me, like, more so through like my friends' parents, like what was possible. I think you can largely become what you can see, and these people are sort of at the top of their game within their industries. So it was really inspiring to see the possibilities that were out there compared to growing up in a small town. Like, you've got different people doing different things, but it really opened my eyes to what was out there.
If you when you go to your school reunion tonight, are you like more famous now? Are you more well known? Because I mean, you're very successful on your Instagram, and you've had a lot of very successful different careers at a very young age.
Yeah.
You've been on magazine covers. Is there some of that?
I think it's one of those things. I don't think people would have necessarily picked that I would have done what I've done.
I guess most people's default thought is that the school reunion is somehow a proxy competition.
Yeah.
But is it really? If everyone goes into it thinking that, then maybe it turns into one. But I don't think anyone wants it to be. So maybe,
no.
I don't know.
Bear in mind, my school had a 1 and 2 year reunion as well. And I was like, after 12 months, I was like, I don't want to see these people.
Lot.
Goodness.
That is a lot.
That's a lot.
I'd love to talk about the school reunion thing, because I avoided going for years. I've been out of school for years. And then one of my girlfriends begged me to go to the 25th anniversary, and I hadn't gone to any beforehand, like none of them, and I really didn't want to go. For me, I went to an all-girls school as well, Amelia, and school was fine. But I wasn't. I suppose I had my own group of friends, but not in the popular clique or anything like that. And it was the weirdest experience for me. Like, the school did a lovely tour of the school, and we saw all the new buildings and things like that, and that was really nice. But then we went to this pub with a meal, and people just reverted back to what they were like in high school. It was bizarre, 25 years later, and lots of people had children and all that, and it was like they had finally escaped from their kids and they were going to have a big night. The girls who were like the people, the troublemakers and all that, they were the ones being trouble that night. Like they were getting so drunk and doing so things. It was just really weird to see people revert to type. And the friend that I went with who'd begged me to go, because I hadn't gone for so long, people didn't really know much about what I'd been doing or anything like that. And unbeknownst to me, she had got quite drunk and she was going around telling everybody that her and I, my husband, were in a three-way together in our marriage.
Oh my God.
That it was a three-person marriage. And so she'd been telling everybody this around. And so when people were talking to me, they were talking to me a bit differently and I didn't know that apparently I was in a three-way marriage. So I've never gone back to another one. It was enough for me just to see that one and see, wow, I just felt people hadn't moved on. But it was very affirming for me thinking I had really moved on, that I wasn't that same high school kid, that I had really come a long way in my career and in my life and in my personal development. And it's going to sound shocking, but I felt almost a bit of superiority, a bit of, wow, like I've really grown. And that was really nice for me to know that I was different. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Have you been to a school reunion, Dash?
No, I haven't. I think I went to the 1 year reunion, but I haven't been to any since. And I actually think our year didn't have their 10-year reunion. Like we were too lazy to organise one. And that I probably wouldn't go. But like I went to a really big school. I went to a really big public school. We had 326 in year 12 our year.
Wow.
That's
so it's pretty
huge.
massive. And I look back at myself in high school and I just, I liked high school. I had some really amazing friends in high school. And, I'm still connected with, two of my best friends are from high school. But I feel like I have thrived since high school. Like, how they talk about there are some people who reach their peak when they're in high school. And then there are some people who their peak comes much later in life. And I feel like I'm one of those people. I wasn't cool. I didn't have cool clothes. I was kind of awkward looking. I hadn't grown into my features. Like I look back and even like sharing photos or looking back on photos when I was in high school, I was like, wow, like it's like my nose was too big for my face, but now I don't feel like I see that anymore. And so I just don't feel the draw to go back there because, as you kind of said, I've just moved on so much in the way I think and who I am. And I also think how people perceive me, right? Like I think people probably had a perception of me back then which wasn't true. And I feel like I've stripped away a lot of the narratives that were potentially holding me back. And so I don't want to go back and have to engage with people and engage with those narratives that people might have had about the gawky Sri Lankan kid.
How about you, Sarah?
No, I've never been. We haven't had one. I think similar to you, Dash, maybe too lazy to organise. I think there was one that almost happened and didn't. Mm-hmm. Opposite to you, really, really small school. So kind of hard to and everyone's dispersed everywhere. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a small school and everyone's kind of gone on to do their thing. So a primary school that I went to did have a reunion. And yeah, I didn't go to that. I'm just not really that interested. I don't have any strong feelings one way or another about it. Like if a reunion dropped in my lap one evening where I had nothing to do, and it was down the road, I'd probably go just to be like, oh yeah, let me see who's there and what's happening. And similarly, I don't have an aversion to going yeah, I'm not.
Are you still friends with anyone from your high school?
Yeah. Not that many, but again, I think that's a function of how small it was. And there were different groups. It wasn't like it was small, so we were all one group. But yeah, a bit like what you all have said, the ones that you, I guess, were friends with and good friends, that friendship has remained. So
That leads us into, like, we've already talked about a little bit our experiences at high school, you know, how we experience high school. Was anyone here the popular kid? Like the really...
No.
No.
I don't know. Does the popular kid self-identify as the popular kid
yeah.
though?
God,
Oh, I know who the
yes.
popular kid was in my school.
But now as an adult, does the popular
Dunno.
kid go, you know what, I was the top dog in high school. I was actually the popular kid. Did they determine it or others I feel like others
determine
it.
Yeah. Can I share I want to share my high school story with you guys, right? I really want to share this. So I was in primary school down the road from my home, and I was in a gifted class. So it was year 5, 6s and 7s
Not
together.
surprised.
Yeah, so I was in this gifted class. But I was not it was a really difficult thing for me in there. I came from a very different background to some of the other kids. And so one day I went down to the school on the weekend and I vandalised my primary school.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
What do
I'm
you
not
mean you
kidding.
vandalised it?
We broke windows and did all sorts of stuff. So anyway, someone saw me. So the next day, which was a Monday, I was called up at the school assembly in front of everybody, and I was publicly shamed in front of everybody that I had been seen to do this, and it was me. And then I had to write a letter to my parents to explain what I did. And then the school decided that they wouldn't expel me, but they would work hard with my parents to work out why I felt the need to act out like this, right? So the teacher, Miss Mortimer, was very, very good to me. And so it was decided that I should go to an all-girls school taught by nuns who would shape me up into the woman that I am today. I had to take 2 buses to get there. It would take me almost an hour and a half to get to school and an hour and a half to get back. And my parents figured that during that time that would distract me and I couldn't get into much trouble, and I didn't. And then the nuns really did shape me up. Like I was a very ideal teenager and then focused on study and things like that. But I brought that with me to the high school. And so I feel in my high school, it was in a very, very wealthy area of Perth that I was an absolute outsider. Like I didn't come from a wealthy family. And because I got into these, back then girls didn't do things like chemistry and all the types of mathematics that I did. So there'd be like 6 or 8 of us in the class out of 120 girls. And I was definitely made to feel that I wasn't part of that 6. And so I went the other way, where I was going to study so hard and show them that I could really, keep up with their level and be as intelligent as they are and get the same results as they are, just to try and be accepted. It was a really weird experience, but not a bad one in a way. I think it was the making of me. I'm sort of thankful that my parents did that maybe if I'd gone to the public high school, I might have gone down a very, very different route, but that's how I ended up at an all-girls school.
That is
Well, it's
fascinating.
interesting that you say that, because it's sort of like, for me, not the same starting, but like I decided when I was 12, I was like, Mum and Dad, I want to go to boarding school in Sydney. And like, that's 5 hours away from home. And my dad was like, why? And Mum was like, okay, yeah, sounds good. So I tried out for like a bunch of scholarships, because again, not from a wealthy family, from a farming place. We go through drought a lot. It's a struggle. And I was like, yep, dead set, because I could see even at a young age, like there just wasn't the opportunity in the town to like do stuff that I wanted to do. And so yeah, then was like, okay, let's go to Sydney. But same story. It's sort of like you feel like an outsider because it's just so foreign in a lot of respects.
Fascinating.
I
And you
know.
both ended up being dentists.
Yeah, I know, right? How did that happen? Fiona, I'm really interested in what you said about not many girls did chemistry and
Yeah.
maths and
Yeah.
things in your generation. I
Yeah.
feel like between your gen and Amelia's gen, that's turned on its head a lot. So what were girls studying, or what subjects were they doing? Home economics?
Yeah, no, they were doing history, was a very big subject. Literature was another big one that they were doing. The easier maths, which was called Maths 1 back then. A lot of people would do English and then Lit. They'd do both of those. Actually, quite a few languages. I did Japanese. I took that as an extra subject, and a lot of my friends were doing. Back then, the languages were quite big, and it was all the classic languages like French and Italian and things like that. Yeah, those sorts of topics. Back then, they didn't have like computers were only sort of brand new. Like I saw my first sort of computer at high school, but nobody sort of did a computer thing. Oh, typing is another big one that they did. There was no alternative TE at the time. Like there was no sort of different stream that you can do. There was only one stream. And until year 10, we did all the home economics. Like I learnt to cook and bake and sew, and we did all of that at school. I had a sewing class every week, and I had a cooking class every week. And
I feel like those subjects would turn you into that good, like from the 18th century, where you can stitch, you can speak languages, you can bake, you can hold a conversation about historical.
I could sew anything.
School. Yeah,
all through university, I used to make all my own clothes. I wore all my own clothes through university, the whole lot, all my own skirts and shorts, and because
it's amazing.
Yeah, I'd learnt to sew at school, so yeah.
Whereas a button fell off my top the other day, and I was like, I don't know how to fix this.
Oh, really? I could fix anything. And I think that's why too, like one of my favourite shows to watch on TV is Project Runway, where they're all doing all the sewing and all that. I'm just upset. My mum always thought I'd have a career in fashion, not a dentist, but I was my school's first dentist. They were very proud of that. Like they'd never had anyone do dentistry.
You go
before.
back and give talks?
No, I did years ago, and the school certainly sort of celebrate me a little bit with that. And like when I won, our listeners wouldn't know, but I won Telstra Businesswoman of the Year a few years ago, and the school really celebrated all that. And yeah, so that was really nice because I was there back then I was the only student to do that sort of thing. So I never felt celebrated while I was at high school. Only afterwards did they claim that I was theirs. So
So interesting.
not in a bad way, it's just the way it was.
But I went to a big school, as you heard, but and we had multiple physics classes, but I was only one of 4 girls in my physics class.
Yeah.
So even with me, it took a while. But our school was known for doing really well. Like the majority of our students got over 90, and we had like 20 students in the 99 point something bracket. So, it's a very high achieving school, very big emphasis on science, maths, and technology. And it was a fantastic school, but it is just interesting. Like it's easy to get lost, and I really love hearing about how they're celebrating you now, but maybe that you didn't feel that at the time. It's so interesting.
I didn't need it at the time either. So I've never been a sort of person who's needed that to be celebrated. Just it's a weird thing.
I have a question for you guys. You know how there's always that list in Year 12 where they say, most likely to be Prime Minister or most likely to be famous or X, Y, Z. Has anyone in that list actually gone on to do the things that... Because there's always those people tout as like, they're going to be so successful. Where are they now?
But what's success? What do you base success on?
That's what I was going to say. I feel like it would be self-determined within each of the people we went to school with whether they're a success by the measure that they define it, because it might not look like success to us, but to them... amazing. I'm living my best life over here. I've got no stress. That's not for me, And then for others, it's reaching the heights of a really hectic career. So I just think that, those things get outdated the minute you leave high school for good.
Yeah.
But I do think that society has a perception of success, and, there's a reason your school is celebrating you, Fiona. There is an absolute reason that they're celebrating you. And, I was in a school which had very multicultural school. And so there was an expectation that you would go on to do medicine, law, accounting, engineering. Like that was kind of like the degree, dentistry, that people were gravitating towards. Yeah, I do think there were some very successful people, but I think it was a school that was kind of like, we are going to... but successful from you are in the jobs that are going to give you money and stability and that all of those types of things. So I think that's a societal perception on it.
Would you do high school again? Like, I never look back at high school with like, that was the best of times. I never think that.
No. But the question for, I think, you guys and the audience, would you do it again knowing what you know now? And how would it be different?
I think doing high school again would be the most tedious exercise.
I think I learnt how to study better post high school, like in uni, and since being an academic and teaching people, I now know the better way to study. So I would almost go back and teach myself what I know now. But I also would go back and tell myself, your place now is not to thrive. Like, you'll thrive later. It's okay. You'll find your tribe later. You'll find your place later. Don't feel like you need to find it now. So I would go back and tell myself that, so I didn't sit there and feel like the ugly duckling and that was going to be me for the rest of my life.